Learning Spanish didn't get easier when I memorized more words or mastered the past tense. It got easier when I changed how I learned. Necesité aproximadamente un año para alcanzar un nivel intermedio alto de español. But I could have cut out hundreds of hours of that journey if I had realized this sooner. Hola, soy Noel. Soy una políglota alemana. Hablo 6 idiomas, pero especialmente amo el idioma y la cultura de España. Sometimes as organized people, ya dije que soy alemana, we can fall into a trap. We think we can plan our way to progress and we need a perfect system before we start. There's nothing wrong with having a plan. But sometimes preparation is really just another word for procrastination. It's easy to say, make mistakes, be less of a perfectionist. But what does it mean in practice? I've broken it down to 6 lessons that I wish I had known when I started learning Spanish. If you learn from my mistakes and really internalize these 6 lessons, you'll be speaking Spanish in the real world sooner than you think. Y probablemente más rápido que yo. Número 1. I waited too long to speak. Esperé demasiado para hablar. I convinced myself that my accent wasn't good enough, that my vocabulary wasn't big enough, and that I'd embarrass myself. So I stayed silent for months. The first time I actually tried speaking, I realized something painful. I could have been doing this the whole time. I should have been. People helped me whenever I needed it, and making mistakes just made me learn faster. Even though silence felt safe, it prevented me from really learning. Número 2. Me comparaba con otras personas. I compared myself to other people. This one drained my confidence more than anything else. I'd watch another learner speak effortlessly and think, why am I not there yet? Or I'd listen to native speakers chatting at full speed and feel like I'd never catch up. Here's the only comparison that really helps us language learners. How are we doing today compared to yesterday? If you stack up enough small wins, you'll be amazed by how far you can come in a short amount of time. Incluso ahora, cuando hablo español todos los días y me considero fluida, trato de detenerme de vez en cuando y evaluar mi progreso. Okay, we'll get frustrated by the last sentence. It's okay. When we listen to language too far beyond our current level, frustration is inevitable. That's what led to my next mistake. Número 3. I didn't listen enough. No escuchaba lo suficiente. I studied, but I didn't immerse myself in the language. Real Spanish was something I avoided because it made me feel lost, so I focused on pure study material. But progress isn't comfortable. Our brain is struggling to make new connections. If you're like me, it can make you feel stupid. And that's why you want to seek out material that's just a little bit beyond your current abilities. Enough to challenge you and expose you to new things, but not so much that you lose your motivation. And by the way, if you're still wondering, here's what I said before. Incluso ahora, cuando hablo español todos los días y me considero fluida, trato de detenerme de vez en cuando y evaluar mi progreso. When it comes to listening, figure out what works for you. There are podcasts designed for beginner Spanish speakers, TV shows made for kids. I personally went through a couple of weeks where I really enjoyed listening to audiobooks for children in Spanish. The vocabulary wasn't too advanced, and I was familiar enough with the stories to follow along. And once you start listening and interacting with the language, your ear will develop quickly. The moment I started focusing on listening, everything shifted. Sometimes that meant sitting down to watch a TV show with subtitles on, but other times it just meant putting on some music as I cleaned my apartment. I started to live the language rather than seeing it as an academic assignment. That academic mindset can be dangerous. Unless you need to pass some kind of exam for your studies or career, remember that no one is going to grade your Spanish. And even if you do need to reach a certain level of proficiency, you don't want to make this next mistake. Número 4. I obsessed over grammar. Me obsesionaba la gramática. I treated grammar like a necessity that I had to master before I could unlock real Spanish. I spent hours trying to understand the difference between the pretérito perfecto and imperfecto. But I couldn't even order coffee. I focused too much on grammar instead of communication. When you start communicating, most of the grammar eventually comes along with it. And when you do want to learn something tricky like the subjunctive, it helps if you have hundreds of hours of listening to think back to. My next mistake was similar. Número 5. I tried to memorize word lists. Intentaba memorizar listas de palabras. I filled notebooks with words I never actually used. Random animals, tools, vegetables. I learned the word medusa way before I knew how to ask someone what they did for work. And guess which one comes up more often? My vocabulary was pretty big and pretty useless at that point. Once I switched to learning the words I needed in real life, my Spanish started feeling like my Spanish. So, how do you know what words are important to learn? I'd say there are 2 ways, and they both have their place. One is to follow a progressive learning plan created by experts. This is where I do think there's a place for textbooks or for a language app. People have spent a lot of time thinking about which skills should come first, second, and third when learning a language. So let them do some of that work for you. The other method comes back to speaking. If you put yourself out there in real-world conversations, you'll see what kinds of expressions or sentences you keep struggling to express. If something comes up one time, it's probably not worth looking it up. But if you find yourself searching for the same phrase over and over, that's a good sign that it's worth learning. This next mistake really comes into play more at the intermediate level. When you're just starting out, I wouldn't give it too much thought. But at a certain point, make sure you don't follow my footsteps. Número 6. I focus too much on textbook Spanish. Me centré demasiado en el español de los libros de texto. Textbook Spanish is clean, polite, slow, and predictable. That can be a good thing when we're starting out. The only problem, real Spanish isn't any of those things. When I finally talked to native speakers, I was shocked. They dropped letters, they used slang, they spoke 2 times faster than anything I'd practiced. Saludos a mis queridos andaluces. If you're at an intermediate level, you've probably noticed that things like the news or commercials are easier to understand than scripted TV shows. One is focused on clarity, the other is as messy as the real world. Which one do you think is more fun? My tip here would be to cast a wide net. Yes, listen to basic Spanish, but throw in some reality TV or reggaeton. Talk to a teacher and to strangers. The other benefit here is that real-world Spanish is super fun. Me cago en la leche, gilipollas, me flipa. The language is full of regional flavors that will make your Spanish unique to you. I don't need to write an academic paper in perfect textbook Spanish, but I do need to communicate on a day-to-day basis in the real world. Let me know if you have any questions. Y comenta si estás cometiendo alguno de estos errores. I hope you can learn from my mistakes and start speaking Spanish fast. Hasta la próxima!